Hello friends, welcome back to the James Lawrence Allcott channel and part 2 of the that's three isn't it? Yes, 3-part trilogy of FPL videos before game week 1. In the first video we spoke about how you win your mini league. Make sure you go and check that out, some really good tips there. In the second one we're going to put forward one FPL asset for every single Premier League club. If you're new to the channel and enjoy this video, then hit the like button because it massively helps, especially these FPL videos, and of course subscribe to the channel. There's only a few places left if you want to be a subscriber before the beautiful milestone of 200k. So hit the button and let's get going, starting off with Arsenal. Now Arsenal, there are a lot of good options. You've got the likes of Odegaard at 6.5, Tomiyasu at 4.5 million, and Saka at 8 million in midfield. These are all credible options, but the best option has to be Gabriel Jesus. Last time I looked, 60% of teams had Gabriel Jesus. If you want a valid strategy early on, it's to be a little bit conservative. So going with, a player that's picked by a lot of teams means that you're not going to kind of miss out or get left behind. Also, in terms of strikers who are definitely going to get minutes, Gabriel Jesus is right up there. So to get him for 8 million, it would possibly allow you to work around your funds and have another premium option as your second striker, be it Kane or Haaland, who are probably the only two strikers who are ahead of Gabriel Jesus this season when you strip away the price tag and think about which forwards are going to score goals this year. Darwin Núñez, of course, as well. Aston Villa, and it's time to splash the cash on Matty Cash. Yeah, 5 million, which is decent. And what is really decent is the fact that last year, 147 points, there was only Man City and Liverpool assets when it came to defenders who were ahead of him in terms of points. And then if you pair that up with the way that Aston Villa are looking like they're going to set up this year, it's a 4-3-1-2. And it's going to be a team that plays quite narrow, and the width will come from those fullbacks. So Cash is going to be getting into the final third a hell of a lot this year, and I think with that in mind, I think he's essentially going to be playing as a winger, so he's a really solid asset for FPL this year. Bournemouth, this is tricky, I've got to be honest, because Bournemouth are going to be down the bottom of the league. They can see goals. You got Travers, the goalkeeper, at 4.5, might get a lot of save points for them, but even at 4.5, you're probably going to be your second choice goalkeeper, and so do you want to waste that 4.5? If you're happy to do that, then maybe Travers is one. But I'm going to go with Dom Solanke, just because I think he is a Premier League player. I really do. I mean, I know literally he is. I get it. No, I know he's playing for... don't be pedantic. What I'm saying is that I think he's got the ability to be a Patrick Bamford. I really do think he can have that trajectory. The problem is with Bournemouth, will he get the opportunities to score goals? I think what will happen, 6 million is maybe a bit pricey, and what will be interesting, and keep an eye on this, if Kiefer Moore starts and they go direct, because if he does, then at 5.5 he could be a good option. But at the moment, in terms of someone who I do believe is a good finisher and takes penalties, might be a good option for your bench, Dominic Solanke. Brentford, I'm going to go for David Raya, a £4.5 million goalkeeper. I think Brentford are always so much more astute and smart in terms of being a team that, yes, you're kind of wondering who are the big names here. Ivan Toney's a good shout as well, but the price bump up to 7 million is maybe a little bit too rich for my blood, but he does take penalties. He will score the bulk of their goals, and if you think he scored 139 points, that was the 5th most of any forward. So I think Ivan Toney is a good option, but I do like the idea of David Raya because at 4.5 he will definitely play. Was injured for a big part of last season, and when he was in the team, they played so much better as well because his distribution is so good. So at the moment, I think his team selected is 11%. So I think he could be a really good shout, and importantly, the fixtures for Brentford at the start of the season are really strong, and that can lead to confidence, which leads to momentum, which means you've got a good goalkeeper who might get some clean sheets. Often they're in a good space when it comes to XG, but also will have to make some saves as well. Brighton, Tariq Lamptey, 4.5 million. I think he's going to be so crucial to Brighton this season. He's such an attacking wing-back, and I think it's a big year for him. Obviously, he was coming back from the injury, has had problems with injuries, broadly speaking, but he's so exciting as a player. In terms of XA last season, per 90, 0.13, which is in the top 25% of players in his position in the top 5 leagues in Europe. He's such an exciting player. He's got so much to offer, and if he can stay fit at 4.5 million, he's a great asset to have. I think the fullback positions, the wing-back positions this year are so strong, and Brighton is on the cheaper end of those guys, but a player that will still have an impact. Chelsea, Reece James, 6 million, an absolute must-have. Last season, 14 goal contributions. That was 5 goals and 9 assists, but only in 20-odd 90s. So It's an absolute no-brainer for me. I think the one concern some people might have is, are Chelsea going to play a 4 or a 3? Obviously, they played 3 for a long time. You want to get Chilwell and Reece James firing and high up the pitch. I think they would do that regardless. Also, I think when it comes to expected goals against, Chelsea had the 3rd best last year. So he's going to get clean sheet points as well. Absolute no-brainer. Get him in your team. Crystal Palace, Michael Olise, such a talent. I absolutely love watching him play. The only problem last year was he didn't play enough, really. I think this year he will step up, play more. He's, more embedded into the Premier League. He understands the pace of it. And for any of those Olise doubters, this is a 5.5 million asset for a Crystal Palace team that I think is going to be really exciting this year. And he was directly involved in 46% of Crystal Palace's goals when he was on the pitch. But as I said, he only played 12.790s last season. This year will be different. I think it's going to be a big year for him, and I think he'd be a nice little asset to have. Everton, very difficult here, not great going forward, pretty poor at the back as well, but time will tell, of course, if Frank Lampard can kind of get this team moving. One player who has done brilliantly for him has been Mykolenko, and on that left-hand side, him gallivanting forward, I think he's a good option in terms of being 4.5, someone who's pretty guaranteed to play, but is also going to get forward and get crosses in. So I think the best of a bad bunch when it comes to Everton, Mykolenko at 4.5 mil. Fulham, Andreas Pereira, 4.5 million. So the clever thing here is that he was at Man United and then made that move. So he was at Man United when FPL kicked off. So if you look at, say, someone who's an equivalent alongside him at Fulham, say someone like Harry Wilson, he's 6 million, but Pereira is 4.5 million. So someone who could get a lot of value added onto him. He's going to be the number 10 for Fulham this year, so he's going to start matches. Tidy, cheap midfielder with a point to prove. Pereira could be a really good shout this year. Leeds United. Now, it's tricky with Leeds United because they've got an influx of new players, and that's generally a rule, and we spoke about that on the FPL mini-league video, that you kind of stay away from those players who've just been bought and don't have that Premier League experience. But with Leeds, to pick someone, it's one of those where you kind of go, yeah, I'm going to hang my hat on him and hope that it works out. So Luis Sinisterra, I think, is definitely that option when it comes to this. 6.5 million, which is probably about right for someone with his potential. I think in the system that Jesse Marsch is putting together here, I think he's going to thrive. Likes to be on that left-hand side, then drive inside, loves to dribble with the ball, and his stats from Feyenoord are very, very exciting. If you look at it as a dribbler, 60% of his dribbles were successful, 7.53 attempted per 90, and most importantly when it comes to FPL, because you don't get points for dribbling, do you? 24 goals from an XG of 14.9. 14.91, and they scored 24 goals, and the creator as well, 13 assists as well. So it's really hard to trust these new signings, but it's one to definitely have on your watch list, because if he does hit the ground running, the quality is there and it's backed up by numbers previously. So this could be a really, really clever little buy. And again, one that I think is probably that they're putting a little bit too much money on him at the moment, but he's one that could be good value as time progresses. Leicester City, I'm going to go for James Maddison, 8 million, and I'm amazed that he's only got 6% or less than 6% team selected by so far in the game, probably because there's other £8 million assets that maybe people think are a bit more easy on the eye, but it's a big season for James Maddison. Brendan Rodgers is really bigging him up in pre-season, saying he's the best he's ever seen him. So important last year for them, 12 goals, 11 assists, that's 23 goal contributions. That's the same as Kevin De Bruyne for Leicester City, not Man City, for Leicester City. So it's a big season for him, and with that World Cup on the horizon, I know James Maddison, with his kind of personality, will be looking to make a huge impact at the start of the season and to get himself in the reckoning. And why not? Because he's one hell of a player, and I think he's now finding that maturity in the Premier League and the output as well. Liverpool, easiest one that we'll do. Yeah, okay, Trent is important as well, but Mohamed Salah, 30 million is pricey, but don't be stupid. Get him in your team and see how the season goes. Salah has scored 231 points or higher every season since he signed for Liverpool in 2017. 231 points. Do you want to take the risk and not have him in your team because everyone else has got him in the team? Don't be dumb. Get him in there. He's going to have an even bigger role. But if it's possible, he's going to be even more important now Mane has gone. Salah, get him in. Man City, I'm going to go for Riyad Mahrez. Now, he's 8 million. Again, we've spoken about all these players that are 8 million, so very interchangeable if it doesn't work. Obviously, you're always a little bit nervous about Pep Roulette. If you look at this Man City squad, in that right wing position, maybe Bernardo Silva gets put out there again, which I think would be a shame because he's so good through the middle. But at the moment, it's Mahrez, and then, I mean, I guess Foden could play out there, but Cole Palmer's probably the understudy. So it looks like he's going to get some minutes this year out there, and I think he's a solid pick. And as I say, at 8 million, it's not going to hurt your bank balance too much by having him in the team. Always scores goals, always creates assists, cutting in on that left foot. I think he's going to have a great year again for him. Man United. Didn't think I'd be saying this, but Anthony Martial, 7 million, and at 7 million, in terms of top 6 sides and forwards in the top 6, he's in a sort of price bracket of his own at this stage. And there's been a lot of rumours that even if Ronaldo was going to play, it would be Martial that would be starting. But with the problems with Ronaldo, that of course they were looking to resolve, and they'll look to try and get him back involved. At 7 million, it's maybe worth that gamble of having him on the bench and seeing if he starts playing. And then you've got some lovely rotations there as your third forward, quite possibly. I can't believe I'm saying it, but he has looked great in pre-season, and so it could be a really clever, under-the-radar pick to go with Anthony Martial this year. Newcastle United, I'm going to go with Kieran Trippier. I like the back line. I think if you think last year, even without Kieran Trippier in the side, defensively, they got so much better. I think they will look to continue that with a really good set of pros there that they've got at the moment in terms of that back line. Target on the other side, Sven Botman, of course, Dan Burn. Fabian Schär if you need him, and Trippier on the right hand side. And then the big thing with Trippier, which makes him tick all the boxes really, is that 5 million is pretty cheap. But second of all, you've got someone who ranked in the top 9% for passes into the penalty area. This is a Newcastle United side that is going to be more offensive this year as well, and of course he takes those set pieces as well, so I'm sure there's a few assists there for him as well. Currently 16% ownership, so a decent option that not everyone has gone for. Nottingham Forest, Nico Williams, 4 million. Another one a bit like Pereira, where he was at Liverpool and so his price was a lot lower, and then he's gone to Nottingham Forest. And if you think, for those of you guys who didn't see Nottingham Forest in the Championship last year, that right side, that's where Jed Spence was playing, and he was so important for how they played. So if you think of the muscle memory of the other players in the team, and I know there's been a lot of changes at Forest, but there is an understanding of that structure. And so Nico Williams could be a real beneficiary of that. 4 million is an amazing price. In terms of pound for pound, he's probably right up there, especially if Forest, with the great transfer window that they've had, if they do excel in terms of their own expectations, he could be really, really good value and provide a lot of great points for your team at an incredibly low price. Southampton, Joe Aribo, 5.5 million. And that was a bit of a toss-up here with him and Bazunu. But the thing with Bazunu is, as much as it's about the goalkeeper, it's about the defence in front of them. And I'm not totally sold on Southampton as of yet. I'd like to see where they're at the start of the season. So he is a good option that you could put in there. He's 4.5 million. But with Aribo's come from Rangers, I think he'll suit the formation that Hasenhüttl will play really, really well. And also, I think there's some attacking returns to be had there as well for a £5.5 million player in FPL. Scored 8 and assisted 5 last year for Rangers. Is that sort of hybrid? Like, I know he's played up front for Rangers, did so in the Europa League final. Obviously a midfielder as well, but an attacking one. And in terms of key passes, 1.7 key passes per 90 last season as well. So it's a good sign of his creative prospects. So I think if Southampton got into a good run of form, of course people like to go for Ward-Prowse, but Joe Aribo could also have a good first season in the Premier League. Tottenham, Harry Kane, 11.5 million. I mean, first of all, he's looking really slim, and maybe that's just something I'm kind of looking for because you've seen Antonio Conte, you've seen the suicide runs and all that stuff. But there's two debates when it comes to Harry Kane. First of all, him or Haaland, and then second of all, him and Son. And I think in both debates, he wins out because first of all, with Son, you've got someone who, yes, is a midfielder, but he costs more, and that could be to the detriment of your forward options. There aren't that many great forward options. Second of all, I think Harry Kane is probably a bit more rotation proof than Son. I think that is up for grabs, to be honest, and they're going to want to play both of these players as much as possible. But look, he's the captain and he wants to play, and I think he's really in the mood this year. He's got to be, especially after everything that happened last year, to have a good run at it in a good environment, in a good mindset, without a major tournament as well. I think he's just going to be purring to get going, isn't he? Second one is Haaland. I think the difference there is that he will play more than Haaland. And obviously he takes penalties. I just think Harry Kane is just going to be such an important asset for most people this year. And therefore, I'm probably going to put him in ahead of Son. maybe ahead of Haaland. Depends if we can get one of those two in as well. West Ham United, I'm going to go with Jared Bowen. So brilliant in the second half of the season. Took up the slack from Antonio, but also linked really well with Antonio as well. I think JaackMaate has come through as well. Great signing. Could be a good option as well in FPL. But despite being a little bit pricey, I still think Jared Bowen will just thrive with either of those two. And I think that will be really, really helpful for them. And it might also allow him and the depth of the squad to sort of tweak a little bit when it comes to the Europa League, give him a bit more rest, and then allow him to thrive in the Premier League itself. So I think he's one where probably when it comes to his TSB, it's actually quite low at the moment, 8%, especially when you think about how good he was last year. I think he's guaranteed to play every single game. And so if he starts well, I think his ownership will skyrocket. And Wolves, I'm going to go for Nathan Collins. Now, I did a video recently ranking transfers so far, and go check it out. It was a bit of a car crash, I've got to be honest, because I was struggling with the tiers last minute. And one person who kind of got hurt by those tiers was Nathan Collins. And I think some people got me wrong when I was talking about him. I love him as a player. I think he's a great player. What I was talking about was that Wolves have spent a lot of money when I think they have enough centre-backs. I think they could have spent that 20 million elsewhere. But Nathan Collins is a really, really good player. And when it comes to FPL, I've seen a lot of shouts for Pedro Neto, and I get that. And I think he's a really good option if he can get back to his kind of former glory. And if Wolves aren't the Wolves that we're expecting, if they're a bit more free-flowing, but if they are what we expect, then they will have a tight defence. They had the tightest defence outside the top 4 last season, conceding only 43 goals. And that was with a really poor last few weeks of the season, which was really disappointing for them. So with that in mind, you're going to get clean sheets, I think, with this back line. And Nathan Collins at 4.5 not only will get those clean sheet points, but I think he's a real asset going forward from set pieces as well, so would be a really good shout when we inevitably, when it gets to November and Wolves look like they're good defensively, are trying to get a Wolves asset in there. So there you have it, guys. One FPL asset for every single Premier League club. Who did I miss out on? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure you check out the other video that we've done so far, and make sure you subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. See you next time.